G'day there guys, it's your Aussie Hubby Markee, back at it again with another r/am I the a-hole post. Now with that said, I want you to sit back, relax, chuck a prawn on the barbie, and get ready for some bloody contentious content. Our first post is by user Ecstatic Apricot, titled, "Am I the a-hole for disowning my brother when he came out as gay because of how he's treating his wife?" So I, 21 female, have a brother who's 28, who came out as gay last month. He has been married to my best friend's big sister, who's 24, for 4 years. They have 2-year-old twin daughters together. I'm really close with her, so I've been trying to stay neutral in what has become a messy separation. My brother has told his wife he's gay by sitting her down and saying he had been sleeping with 2 different men for about 6 months. He said he is now sure that he feels romantic feelings for men, and also told her he had been sleeping with random men from Grindr for over a year behind her back. She obviously freaked out, asked him how he could do this, why didn't he tell her when he started having the feelings, etc. He said that he's always thought he was gay, but he didn't want to come out because it might affect his career. She asked him what about the effect on her life. She is now a single mother to 2 toddlers. He was essentially very angry that she wasn't supportive of this, so he kicked her out of the house with the kids. After she eventually found a place to stay, my brother moved in one of the men he had been having an affair with. Since then, he has had very little contact with the kids, as in to speaking to them on the phone once a week maybe. He has expressed that he still doesn't want to be public about coming out, so he posted on Facebook that he has separated from his wife because they aren't in love anymore, and hinted she was the unfaithful one, posting things like, "Yeah, seems like someone in this relationship wasn't satisfied with just one man, and is basically being a dick." I told him a couple of weeks ago that he's a fudging jerk, and I don't want to be involved with him anymore because I think it's disgusting that he's treated his wife like this. I told him I get that you have to come out in your own time, but you don't need to kick her out, ignore your kids and berate her, and you don't need to make comments that people will assume mean she was being unfaithful. He said this was a joke about him having 2 partners now. Still screwed up. He said I'm being a homophobic jerk, and that I don't know how hard it is to come out. He said that if I don't accept him, I'm a bigot. He made mistakes and whatnot. I said maybe I will forgive him if he improves his behavior to his wife, and he said he resents her for keeping him from sleeping with men for years. I gave up at this point. My sisters, 17 and 24, both think I'm being homophobic. My mum agrees with me. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. Him coming out does not absolve him because he's a fudging adult. What he did was crappy, and he's incredibly selfish. This is someone I would absolutely cut out of my life. His wife and kids deserved so much better, and I hope they'll be able to move on from this without too much trouble. Good luck. I have to give a big yes to this. He's incredibly fudging selfish. He's using his coming out as gay as a weapon in his victim mentality. Edit, I mean he has been having an affair for years and kicks her out of the house. Seriously. He kicked his wife and kids out. Her divorce attorney is going to have a field day with that. Being gay in this situation doesn't matter one bit. Cheating on your spouse, especially high-risk MSM sex, while presumably still having unprotected sex with his wife, makes him a complete jerk. This is my thinking. She was tested when it all came out, and thankfully everything is okay, but even risking it is disgusting in my book. I'm glad to read she is healthy. That was my first concern as well. Reminds her she needs to wait 6 months to get tested again. Why is this? There are some STDs that have longer periods where they might not show up on a test within a certain amount of time, even if you have contracted the disease. I believe the 6-month window accounts for even the longest of incubation periods. Not the a-hole. You didn't disown your brother for being gay, you disowned him for being an unfaithful, selfish jerk. Big difference. Posted by user When Vecher, titled, "Am I the a-hole for telling my daughter to speak French or leave my house?" My grandparents escaped France at the end of World War II. They lived in hiding during the war, and after the war they started life over in America. So my French ancestry is very important to me. I speak French, and my 4 children speak French. I am a single dad. 2 of my children are still teens and living with me. and my oldest two daughters are staying with me right now until the whole situation ends. My oldest daughter brought her boyfriend with her. My children and I all speak French to each other inside the house. Ever since she brought her boyfriend home, my oldest daughter will not speak French. I will ask her a question in French, and she will answer in English. I asked her why, and she says she doesn't want to alienate her boyfriend because everyone would be speaking French except him. I told her that she can speak French or leave. Now my daughter won't talk to me in any language, and my other children think I was too harsh. Am I the a-hole? You're the a-hole. In what possible universe are you not the jerk here? To break this down for OP, you are being an a-hole for not temporarily allowing your daughter to speak English so as to not be rude to her boyfriend. You're also an a-hole to your daughter and are teaching her that your love is conditional, and you will kick her out during a global pandemic for arbitrary reasons. Yes, raising your children to speak a second language is not easy, and you've accomplished it. Insisting on that language in the home is the most likely way of succeeding, but you've taken it too far. You should not have to allow the boyfriend to temporarily move in if you were going to treat him so rudely. How did you even imagine that was going to work? Teaching your children how not to be jerks is also part of your job. Your daughter seems to have a good head on her shoulders, so I'm going to hope that your kids are not the type to sit in public and make horrible comments about strangers because they assume people don't understand them. But I wouldn't be surprised if they did. This whole house should be speaking English when the boyfriend is in the room, so that he is included, and you should apologize to him and your daughters for your actions, with an extra apology, as MJ Chats mentions, for implying to your daughter that your love for her is conditional on what language she chooses to speak at any time, and her welcome in your home during a global health crisis is completely arbitrary. Like, what's the goal here? To immerse the boyfriend in French so he's forced to learn it? Or just be an a-hole? You're the a-hole 100%. Side note, OP could be literally anyone in French-speaking Canada where the sentiment is where you will speak French or you will go screw yourself. This is true. You're the a-hole. Imagine how it feels to be the boyfriend. Would you want to go somewhere where you couldn't understand a single word being said? I think that's OP's point. Posted by user Throwaway, titled, "Am I the a-hole for making a cruel comment to my parents regarding my disabled brother?" Hello everyone, let's set the scene. I, 32 male, am married to my wife, 31 female. My parents are 56 and 56. I have one sibling who's 29 and a male. Let's call him Drew. Drew was born with a severe genetic disorder. He has never spoken a word in his life, and can barely make grunts. He can only walk short distances, and even then, he has to be wearing his ankle braces. He will never have anything resembling a normal life. Doctors say that he has the cognitive abilities of a 4 or 5-year-old. I feel terrible for him. His life has been wasted away because of something that nobody had any control over. My parents have been taking care of him for his entire life. It caused me to become very distant from my parents. I wasn't neglected per se, but they devoted almost all of their energy and free time to Drew. I try to reconnect with my parents now, but it's minimal at best. However, we have started doing occasional Zoom calls over the past few months. Unfortunately, there has always been a subtle expectation that my wife and I are supposed to take care of Drew when my parents are gone. Even when I was a kid, they asked me to stay alone with Drew for a while to practice taking care of him. I'm completely opposed to this. Caring for Drew would be a huge burden on my wife and I, and any future children that we might have. It can cost thousands to take care of him, not to mention the hours of work we would have to put in just to keep him alive. My parents have been trying to push it on me, but I try to change the topic. My parents are getting older now, so this topic is becoming paramount. We just had a Zoom call 2 nights ago, and we started talking about Drew. My parents started talking about their plans for the future. My wife and I are considering moving to a new city. We have a specific one in mind, before we start a family. My parents said that we should not move there because it will be difficult for us to take care of Drew. I was fed up with their antics at this point, so I flat out rejected it. I told them that my wife and I will make the decision that's best for us, and not Drew. They tried to guilt me. What will happen to Drew once we can't take care of him anymore? I told them, "The day after you die, I'm sending Drew to a nursing home and I'll never visit him again." My parents were furious. They said that my comments were extremely insensitive and cruel. "How could you do this to your brother?" they asked. I told them that it would not be fair to force him onto me for his entire life. I don't want to constantly take care of a disabled person and have him live in my own house. I just want to live freely. I couldn't finish the explanation because they hung up on me in the middle. My wife wasn't home when the call happened, but I told her afterwards. She said that the language was harsh, but she agrees with the message. I want to see what you guys think. Am I the a-hole? You were not the a-hole until this. The day after you die, I'm sending Drew to a nursing home and I'll never visit him again. Do you actually need me to spell out why? If you do, write back and ask and I will. But I think it's incredibly self-evident why that was cruel and unnecessary. I suspect you know it already and are just looking for a stranger to hold up a mirror. I.e., do you see what I see? Because I do. Your parents should not be attempting to foist your brother on you via coercion or guilt. That is horribly wrong. Everyone sucks here. Agreed with this everyone sucks here assessment. I bet OP has some pent-up resentment to his brother, as I'm sure the family had to sacrifice things like vacations and whatnot due to the brother's condition. I understand the reasoning behind it, but Drew's condition isn't his fault. It's not fair to take your anger out on him. OP should really see a therapist. Plus, OP has been avoiding this conversation for a long time. Eventually, you just want to get it out and over with, so you just end up being blunt and insensitive just to get your message out there. For the record, I 100% agree that OP should not be required to take care of his brother, but knowing that his parents love and care for this child, and that their greatest fear of him ending up in a home will most certainly come true, warrants a little bit of a softer approach. Definitely agree that everyone sucks here. Everyone sucks here. This is an open conversation you all should have had a long time ago. Drew is going to need lifelong care after your parents go through no fault of his own. He deserves to be comfortable and happy. Your parents suck for assuming you would take care of him without having a proper discussion and not planning with the family what will happen when they are gone. You have had a front seat to the sacrifice needed to raise him, and you have a right to say no. They should accept this and make real plans that prioritize his happiness, not guilt you into becoming his caretaker. You kinda suck though too. You are an adult and should have made it clear long ago that you had no plans on taking him, so together, you can all come up with a plan. Yeah, you don't owe anyone anything, etc. However, you know he has been dealt with one of the worst hands in life. It was not his fault your parents neglected you. Saying you'll throw him in a care home and never see him again is cruel, and he won't understand why. I don't know if you mean it or you just said it to be nasty to your parents, but even if it was a moment of anger, they will now have that possible fate for him hanging over their heads for the rest of their lives. Have a real talk about it. Agree, I don't blame OP for wanting to have Drew in a nursing home, as it actually might guarantee Drew better care, as he would get 24/7 care. But OP became a real a-hole when he said, "I'll never visit him." Everyone sucks here, and I feel really bad for Drew. Posted by user JuLuBoo. Titled, "Am I the a-hole for asking my bridesmaid to lose weight after she grew out of her dress?" Sorry for the weird title. I wasn't sure how to summarize my situation. I, 24 female, am getting married this October, providing Corona is over by then. One of my bridesmaids is my friend/cousin, Myla, 25 female. For whatever reason, Myla has been gaining a lot of weight over the past few months, and I'd estimate she's up 30 to 40 pounds since last fall. We went dress shopping in October, and since I ended up picking a somewhat expensive eggplant velvet dress to match the autumn theme, I told my bridesmaids I'd pay. I'm pretty blessed financially, so I could afford it. Now, Myla has broken it to me that she grew out of her dress and will need a new one. Unfortunately, this style is not available in plus sizes and would need to be custom made, if it's possible to get at all. I already paid for her dress, and I think it's inconsiderate for her to put on weight when she knows that she won't fit the dress. She's honestly been really entitled and assuming I'll just figure it out and replace her dress at my expense. Plus, there's the bullcrap of calling a weight gain growing out of something, as if her own choices had nothing to do with it. I texted her last week and told her my issues. I said that I really wanted her in the wedding, but the dress was presenting issues. I gently asked her to go back to the size she was last fall. Well, she didn't respond, but she has been vague posting about women who tear other women down and anti-body shaming stuff. So I'm pretty sure she's mad. What do I do? Was I wrong to even ask? Everyone sucks here. She shouldn't have just assumed that you could, should, or would fork out for a brand new dress. You shouldn't assume that she can lose that weight again by October, and you certainly shouldn't tell her to do so. There are a couple of ways to handle this. Firstly, you could just explain that it is not in your budget, so she would need to pay for the second dress. If she can't afford that, she can drop out as an official bridesmaid and come as a guest. Best thing to do is apologize for making comments about her weight, explain that you were just stressed because of the budget concerns, but remain firm that you won't be buying a second dress. You should do this. Indeed, I sympathize with OP's plight, but the way she talks about the situation makes her come across at least as entitled as the bridesmaid. There was an opportunity to handle the situation with grace and as a friend, and OP took the opportunity instead to display a rotten core the friend might not have seen before. It's not a rotten core. Was it an insensitive remark? Sure, but she wasn't fat-shaming her. It was one of those things that slip out from being stressed out and not thinking straight because of said stress. It doesn't mean the OP is an evil body-shaming person. Everyone says hurtful things sometimes, but it doesn't make them bad people. I'm gonna say not the a-hole. This is coming from another overweight lady. Her just assuming you'll pay because she put on weight is very poor on her part. You were generous to pay for it in the first place. It fit. I'm guessing it looked lovely. Her own choices led to it not fitting, so she should take responsibility to resolve it, whether that's getting an alternative or losing weight. You could argue that the lockdown situation makes it difficult to keep in shape, but I still don't think that justifies her entitlement and passive-aggressive response. I agree with you that OP shouldn't have to pay for another dress, but I'm wondering how sure she is that her friend's weight gain is because of her own choices. 30 to 40 pounds sounds like a lot to gain in a couple of months, so I think it might be possible that there are underlying reasons why the friend gained weight, mental or physical health related. The friend is absolutely an a-hole for assuming OP will just buy her a new dress, but I don't think OP should even mention the weight gain. I'm pretty sure the friend already knows and isn't happy about it. What do you guys think of this one? Posted by user Friendly Complaint 2, titled, Am I the a-hole for not telling my wife that my work trips with her dad was actually fishing trips? A couple of months ago, my father-in-law told me and my brother-in-law and our spouses that he needed brother-in-law and me to come up with him to his cabin and help him for a few days with some repairs that he couldn't do himself. My wife was not thrilled with the idea because we had at the time a 2-month-old baby girl, but she eventually relented after my father-in-law insisted that he really needed my help. But when the three of us got to the cabin, my father-in-law told us there were no repairs he needed us to do. He had invited us up to have a guy's weekend with some fishing and relaxing because he thought I needed a break from my wife and the baby, and my brother-in-law needed a break from his family too. I felt like he was right and that I did need a break, so I stayed and enjoyed the weekend. It also would not have been practical to force them to drive me back since we rode up together, and it's a 4-hour drive each way. I felt bad about staying after I got home, and my wife told me how difficult things had been without me, but I did not feel like I could tell her without getting my father-in-law and brother-in-law in trouble. My mother-in-law and brother-in-law's wife did not know that this was not a work trip either. A couple of weeks ago, my father-in-law said he needed more help, but promised me that this time he was telling the truth. Again, I went up to the cabin. He did have a project for us to do this time, but it took about 2 hours. Then we fished for the rest of the weekend. I haven't said too much about the trips because I did not want to lie to her, but I feel like an a-hole for pretending that I was working while I was away, and my wife had no help with our daughter. But I did not see a way to tell her without getting the three of us in trouble and harming my relationships with everyone. I also think my father-in-law is trying to do a nice thing for me and my brother-in-law. I know he just wants to give us a chance to relax every once in a while and get a break. He means well, even if the way he has gone about it may not be the best. I most likely will not go back to the cabin unless father-in-law really needs help with something. So with that intention, am I the a-hole for keeping this a secret? Would I be the a-hole if I never told her? And you know what they say, the road to hell is paved with good intentions, and people always bloody keep their secrets to the grave, don't they? It's just one of those situations. You're the a-hole, a huge one. Your baby was 2 months old, and you buggered off because you needed a break? But she doesn't get a break, does she? You shouldn't lie to your spouse, period. Your father-in-law brought you into a lie, and it was crappy of him, but I doubt he'll stop. You need to come clean to your wife and face the consequences. Look, both parents need a break. I don't fault you entirely for taking a fishing trip. But 1, you shouldn't lie. 2, you should make sure she gets an equal break as well. Maybe going forward, after you tell her and receive her guaranteed wrath, you and the guys take a weekend, and she and the girls take a weekend. You didn't know the first time it wasn't really to do actual work, but you should have told her the second you got home and insisted she also have a break. I can't believe her own father pulled this. Definitely a misogynist if he thinks the person who gave birth and is nursing doesn't need a break. Of course, you could also give your wife a break to go off for a couple weekends, but I guess you didn't feel bad enough to do that. Seriously, he doesn't give a damn how his own daughter is doing, but is willing to make her life harder in order to give his son-in-law a break. I am blown away by what a jerk move that is. You're the a-hole. Although everyone sucks here except the wives, I would be heartbroken if I had a new baby and my dad lied to give him time away from us. It says something about how he sees raising children, which is pretty disgusting for a parent. And then I'd be more sad and angry to find out my husband had kept it from me. Edited from Everyone Sucks Here to the other party is the wife. You're the a-hole. I honestly feel sorry for your wife. Posted by user Florabunda Wonder. Titled, Am I the a-hole for telling my husband to deal with his daughter's bad behavior and for reminding him that she's not my daughter? On mobile. Bad formatting. Sorry. Also maybe a little bit long, but all relevant. Edits have been added to address common responses and things people felt I had left out. I'm happy to answer any questions. So, I have been involved in my stepdaughter's life since she was a baby. I'm not a homewrecker. She was a happy accident from a one-night stand before I met him. I already had one child, and so I was very keen and used my experience to help him with everything when he had her for a few days per week. Because he was pretty clueless. I treated her like she was my own and was emotionally invested in everything to that degree. Edit, she lives with her mother and is with us for 2 to 3 days per week. I am not her primary mother figure, and I know this. And that's not the point here. It seems like being a step-parent in the UK is different from other places. When she was 4, I was trying to organise our Christmas with her, sort out gifts, time with her grandmother, etc. Things were difficult, and I was getting upset, and at one point my husband said to me, I don't know why you're so bothered. She's not even your daughter anyway. And it really hurt me, like cut me to the core, because I had given everything to help raise this child for the last 4 years. But I realized that yeah, I had given too much and I needed to back off. So I did. Edit, my husband is autistic, so he now sees no wrong in what he said, as in a literal sense. I am not her biological mum. However, when he said it at first, he meant it by way of, you're too involved, she's my child, not yours. I know this because we discussed it at the time. She's now almost 10 and very sassy. I've often been in charge of looking after her when she visited, 3 out of 4 weekends, over the last 2 to 3 years, because of my husband's hobby. I have sucked it up until just before COVID, when I could clearly see that she was becoming resentful that it was me looking after her and not her father. So things started to change, and he became more involved because I made him. Then COVID happened, and so now he's here all the time. When she has an issue with her siblings or whatever, I now direct her to talk to her father because I feel like it is his duty to resolve it. And sometimes he's better anyway because I can have a short fuse. Today she came downstairs, started to complain about something our son had done an hour before. I then told her to talk to her father. Things started to escalate, so I said I was going to time out, and I left the room, because that's our family plan. She storms upstairs and slams the bedroom door a few times. Husband comes to the bottom of the stairs and shouts at her to come down. She refuses. He says for her to stay up there all day then. Then he comes to the bedroom to discuss it with me, which he shouldn't do when I'm time out. Edit, my son had gone upstairs shouting for his older sister. He hadn't specifically done anything to her, but he woke her up. Apparently this was an important thing to add. Also, I try to talk to her about any issues, but if she doesn't want to hear it, or I can't resolve it, then I tell her to talk to her father, because I don't want to overstep the mark. It emerges that he wants me to sort things out with her because it was me who got angry in the first place. I said no, because he is the one who shouted etc., and she's not my daughter. Husband says I keep bringing that up because of what he said before and that I'm bitter. He is partly right. I have said it a few times in the past, but I do it to remind him that I'm not doing what I feel is his job because of what he said to me before. He made it clear it's not my responsibility. And yeah, it still really hurts when I think back to when it originally happened. So, am I the a-hole in this situation, and what do I do? Edit, I just wanted to add, I haven't completely stepped off. I am still very much involved, and I feel that I do more for her than her father does. She gets the same from me as my biological children do, but I was getting crap for everything, so I tried to drag her father in more. Our family situation is bloody complex, so it's not as black and white as I wish it was, but I appreciate everyone's response. Second edit. Wow. Okay, I need to clarify. I don't just refuse to talk to her when she comes to me with a problem. I think I probably made that sound wrong. I do talk to her, but if she's not happy with my decision or what I have to say, then I refer her to her father. I'm not some cold-hearted tramp who is saying, not my problem, go see dad. Like this morning, I said, look, it's been an hour, so it can't have bothered you that much. She wasn't happy with that, so I said, well, go and tell your father then. Cue her getting stroppy with me, and me saying, okay, rather than argue, I'm gonna take 5 minutes out of here. Edit, we are having therapy because our situation is complex. My husband has ASD and son had ADHD. However, this is something that has only started in the last few weeks. The timeout is part of a gradual system we will be using to effect positive behavioral changes in our household. I like that one. That's pretty good. You just separate the situation. He's the a-hole for creating that boundary. Obviously, she's not your biological daughter, but when you married him, you wanted to accept her into your family as well. I want to say everyone sucks here, because I kind of feel like your frustration with what he said before has now affected your potential relationship with your stepdaughter, but I'm not super sure. Alternative family dynamics is certainly difficult, so I think the best thing to do is discuss with your husband what role you would like to take in your stepdaughter's life. I don't know, I don't see how she's the a-hole considering I have often been in charge of looking after her when she's visited, 3 out of 4 weekends, over the last 2 to 3 years because of my husband's hobby. The stepdaughter is resentful of OP because her father ignores her. OP is just making him actually parent now that he's home due to COVID. Who knew someone who handed off parenting their kids sucks at parenting? Tough crap for the husband, though it's sink or swim time. He could have been learning how to parent for years, but he didn't, and now his child is a more complex person than when he or she was 7 or 5 or 3 or 1. I second this. I don't know where the biological mother fits in this, but really, the OP in the beginning wanted to fully accept this child as hers. If the husband didn't make that one comment, and as a super emotional person, I know how that one thing just stays for years and even decades and keeps punching. I wish OP had discussed it with him back then, and they had decided what her role is. It seems that she would have been willing to get more and more involved, and may have been the mother in the child's life really. Also, if the kid was 4 when this happened, then there's a chance she remembers you being very close, and then starting to make boundaries. Maybe you should have a discussion with both your husband and the child, and if you are doing as much as you think, then better be a mother and have those rights. Have her call you mum whenever she's ready, of course. That's if you still want this. And OP replies, "Thank you for your empathy. She lives with her mother and they have an amazing relationship. She comes to us on the weekends, or other days at the moment, because her mum is a key worker in this messed up situation. Pretty much all you have said is accurate, and I am trying to get my husband to do more things with her, but I think he lacks confidence. I'm very lucky because she has said before that she thinks of me like her second mother, which was an absolute honor. She has gone through testing out calling me ma'am. That's what we say in this part of the world. But ultimately she feels like it's not what she wants. Either way is fine with all of us, even her mother. She knows she is welcome to change her mind in the future if that's what she wants to do. She does tell her friends she has a second mother too, which is super cool." And another opinion here. "Everyone sucks here. You and your husband have created a really uncomfortable environment for a 10-year-old to grow up in. Initially, your husband started it with his comments, but instead of being a mature adult and talking to him about how it hurt, you've continued to be petty and bitter about something he said 6 years ago. You two need to sit down and establish what role you exactly have in his daughter's life, because if you don't establish it, she's going to grow really frustrated and confused. She's a 10-year-old child. She sees you as a parental figure in her life, but depending on your mood, you either embrace that role or you don't. And that little child can't understand which way the wind blows each day." I think the underlying issue here is, do you feel that she is your daughter and would you like to treat her as such? Figure it out and have a conversation with your husband and your daughter about what you want. What he said was unfair and extremely painful, but don't let his remarks stop you from having a fulfilling mother-daughter relationship with her if that is what you want. Forget labels and biology. Families are formed in all sorts of ways. If she is your daughter, she is your daughter. And OP says, "Thank you for this." So, I want to put this on you guys. Who do you think is the a-hole in this situation? That's a really complex family dynamic, and ultimately, in my opinion, I do think the dad has huge issues here. She honestly seems like she's doing her best, and I know as well just how it is to have words dig at you, even for years, situations dig at you for years. It does hurt. So I can sympathize with OP. I think that he's the a-hole in this situation. I understand people mess up, people make mistakes, but look, she's trying. She is genuinely trying in this situation, and she's responding to people in this post. You don't often get people responding when they're the ones in the wrong, when they're the ones in the right, blah, 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 blah. That's just the way of Reddit. Anyway, guys, I hope you had a good one. Tell me what you thought in the comments down here. This has been Markee. I'll see you in the next episode. Bye.